Welcome to our final video about stress during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now that you have a better understanding about what stress is and how to recognize it, we will explore how what you do can affect your vulnerability to experiencing stress or anxiety to find some ways that you can reduce your vulnerability during any periods of high stress.
And so there are things we can do to reduce our vulnerability to these effects. So if we know that stress and anxiety and the pandemic is going to create all of this effect, we can limit how vulnerable we are in other ways. Some of that is through sleep. If you stay up all night, you might notice that you feel worse the next day. So in the midst of a pandemic, if you stay up all night, you have the stress of the pandemic and the stress of staying up all night. So if you make sure you get a good sleep, you've at least helped yourself in that way. In the same way, at the same time, if you drink soda, sometimes you notice that it tastes really good and it gives you that initial sugar rush and then you crash. And so in addition to the stress you're under already, you have the stress of that crash. And that might make it even worse. And that might make you even more vulnerable to feeling anxious or feeling down or being more irritable because you're dealing with kind of two blows. There are now two things affecting you. And so when we do this with large numbers of students, I often talk about kind of paying attention to what you do. I don't tell students, hey, don't drink soda, because you might. What I say is, if you drink soda and a few hours later you start to feel anxious or you start to have trouble focusing in school, it's not because you're stupid. Just pay attention to, wait, I had soda. That's why I'm having trouble now. That's why I feel tired now. That's why I feel stressed, because I'm crashing. And so then you start to take ownership of it. I have an exam this afternoon, so I probably don't want to drink soda because I don't want to feel extra stressed or extra pressure around my exam. Maybe if you don't have an exam or you have the day off, then go ahead. Then it's okay to have that stress. Maybe there's less stress from anything else. So you're just being very conscientious. You're being very mindful about, hey, what's going on in my life and can I afford this additional source of stress or not? Or maybe it doesn't create stress for you, but something else does. A lot of times people find that caffeine might create some stress for them, but not for everyone. And so the biggest thing to take away from reducing your vulnerability is figuring out what works for you. This is just a list. And in fact, there's a much bigger list. There are much bigger lists available online. These are some things that we find helpful for us. There's some things that I have had children and adolescents I work with find helpful for them. That's all it is. It won't necessarily work for everyone. Hopefully something here works for you. We also find that being active, exercising in anything that you enjoy, because having fun also helps to reduce stress, and doing so in a way that's active, that's physically engaging, can help even more. Now, the only thing that I will say is that I will kind of strongly recommend is that, alcohol and psychoactive or illicit substances are illegal, especially are illegal for children. Illicit substances are mostly illegal for adults too. And a lot of that's because of the impact that they have, but a lot of that's the impact that they have on stress. They create a stress on the body. They might worsen some depression feelings. They might worsen irritability, or they might even help you feel a little bit better right now and make you feel a whole lot worse later on. So that's why we recommend that children and youth really avoid these things, because it's especially harmful. It adds a lot of stress, and it's going to make that anxiety, that depression, those negative feelings, it's going to make you more vulnerable to them. And so if it becomes worse, if you got drunk and then you feel worse, we know that alcohol might have been a culprit in why you feel worse now. But you do what you can and understand that what you've done might be responsible for how you feel. And what you do now, the decisions you make today, will can help you feel better or worse tomorrow. And then finally, along the same lines, giving yourself time to take breaks can help. But that means you have to schedule out what you do to give yourself time to take breaks. If you wait until the day before a big paper is due and you need to write the whole paper all night, then you have to stay up all night. So you have the stress of staying up all night. Maybe you're feeling especially anxious that day, but you still have to do it because it's due the next day. If you spread this out, if you start working on it a week ahead of time, and you feel really anxious one day, then you don't work on it that day. Then you say, you know what? Today I feel really anxious. I'm going to do more tomorrow. Or maybe you have a day that you feel really good. And you say, oh, I feel really good. I think this is a good day to get some stuff done so that if I feel worse tomorrow, I'll have some already done. That's part of why we recommend answering the easy questions first. Get through the things that you know you can do well. Make sure that stress and anxiety about the harder questions, about the harder assignments, that doesn't get in the way of showing what you do know. And then use some of those easy questions to give yourself a break, to let anxiety come down, maybe to give yourself something to do to help. Know that anxiety will decrease eventually. It rises and falls. It comes and goes like the tide. Even when we see people who are chronically anxious, we see fluctuations within that anxiety where they have good days and bad days, or throughout a day, sometimes they feel more anxious and then it comes back down. So it fluctuates for everyone. And you're just waiting for it to come back down and then finding things that can improve the moment, that can help you hang on, that can make you feel a little bit better while you wait. One thing that we found can help is something we call mindfulness, but it's really about focusing your attention, right? And it's about focusing attention on maybe one color in this painting that shows how you can sometimes distract yourself or refocus your brain away from the things that are making you anxious. And this can be especially helpful when you're feeling really anxious and you say, I know I'm feeling anxious, so I'm going to do something to help myself wait and let it come back down. And so if you take a minute for this activity, you can pick a color in the painting and then really focus intently on the painting and just try to find that color throughout. Maybe you pick blue. And yes, there's some kind of big chunks of blue, but then you start to look for blue everywhere else. And really, really focus. Hopefully you find that other things, other ideas, other worries kind of fade away.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask your teachers, counselors. Finally, we love to hear from students who have questions or who want to share how this workshop helped them understand and manage stress and anxiety. You can contact us through email or find us on Twitter and Facebook.